The metal corridors of the Galactic Council's orbital station hummed with an unusual tension. Ambassador Zextal's crystalline footsteps echoed against the polished floors as she hurried toward the emergency session chamber, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft ambient lighting. After 3 centuries of diplomatic service, very little could rattle the veteran Arxian ambassador. But what she had witnessed in the Omega sector had shaken her to her crystalline core. The chamber doors parted with a soft hiss, revealing the vast amphitheater where representatives from over 1,000 civilizations gathered. The cacophony of worried discussions in hundreds of languages filled the air, only to die down as Zextal took her place at the central podium. Her inner membranes pulsed with anxiety as she faced the assembled delegates. Esteemed members of the council, she began, her translator converting her harmonic speech into the standard galactic frequency. I come before you today with grave news that threatens the very foundation of our galactic society. The council chamber, usually a place of measured debate and careful political maneuvering, fell into an uncommon silence. Zextal's reputation for level-headed diplomacy made her obvious distress all the more concerning. 3 standard cycles ago, the Drachnid Imperium launched what they believed would be a simple annexation of the human colony world of New Eden. They expected minimal resistance from what they considered a technologically inferior species. She paused, her scales shifting to a deeper blue. They were catastrophically wrong. Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing the aftermath of what had occurred. The images caused several delegates to recoil in shock. The mighty Drachnid fleet, once considered among the most powerful in the galaxy, now drifted as twisted wreckage around the colony world. What you're seeing isn't the result of superior technology or overwhelming numbers, Zextal continued. The human defenders were outnumbered 10-1. Their ships were centuries behind Drachnid engineering, but they had something we've never seen before, a capacity for innovative violence that defies all known parameters of warfare. The images shifted to show recordings of the battle. Human ships, little more than crude metal boxes by galactic standards, performing maneuvers that should have torn them apart. Crews pushing their vessels far beyond their design limitations, using tactics that no sane species would attempt. They turned their cargo ships into weapons, their mining equipment into artillery. When their conventional ammunition ran low, they weaponized their own atmosphere processors. The humans didn't just fight back. They rewrote the rules of engagement in real time. Zextal's voice grew harder as she continued. But what truly terrifies me is not what they did, but why they did it. The Drachnids offered surrender terms 6 times during the battle. Terms that would have preserved most of the colony's population. Every other species we know would have accepted by the second offer. The humans not only refused, they responded by fighting harder. The chamber erupted in murmurs as Zextal projected the final image, a simple text transmission sent by the human commander to the Drachnid fleet just before the battle's turning point. Our children are on this world. We will not yield. We will not break. We will send you to whatever gods you believe in, or we will die trying. This, members of the council, is why I have called this emergency session. Zextal's voice cut through the chaos. We have gravely misunderstood humanity. We dismissed them as primitive because their technology lags behind ours. We considered them weak because they lack our physical advantages. We thought them insignificant because their empire spans mere hundreds of worlds rather than thousands. She leaned forward, her scales now pulsing with a deep crimson warning pattern. But we failed to understand their true nature. When pushed to their breaking point, humans don't shatter. They transform. They become something else entirely, something that defies our understanding of what a civilized species should be capable of. The chamber had grown deathly quiet now, every delegate transfixed by the implications of what they were hearing. The Drachnids thought they were attacking a weak colony. Instead, they awakened something that our civilizations have never encountered. A species that doesn't recognize impossible odds, that doesn't accept defeat, that will rewrite the laws of physics if that's what it takes to protect their own. Zextal's final words fell like stones in the silent chamber. The humans have a saying that has haunted me since I witnessed their response. Beware the fury of a patient people. We have been monitoring humanity for centuries, thinking we were studying them. But now I realize we were watching a sleeping giant, and the Drachnids have just kicked it awake. Admiral Chen Zhang stood at the viewport of his makeshift command center, a repurposed mining facility, deep beneath New Eden's surface. His weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass as he watched the last civilian transports disappearing into the planet's swirling atmosphere. The Drachnid ultimatum still echoed in his mind. Surrender within the next solar rotation, or face annihilation. Status report, he called out, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding above their heads. Dr. Sarah O'Malley, the colony's chief scientist, approached with a tablet displaying an array of hastily compiled data. Her gray hair was disheveled, and her lab coat bore the stains of 3 sleepless days. We've completed the modifications to the atmospheric processors, sir, though I should note that what we're attempting has never been tested. The energy conversion cold could tear the processors apart and kill us all. Chen finished. I'm aware of the risks, Doctor, but we're out of conventional options. Around them, the command center hummed with desperate activity. Colonial militia coordinated with civilian engineers. Mining crews worked alongside the handful of regular military personnel who had been stationed on New Eden. The disparate groups had merged into a singular force driven by a common purpose: survival. The Drachnids are beginning their descent, announced Lieutenant Rivera from her jury-rigged sensor station. Multiple heavy carriers detected entering the atmosphere. They're following the exact pattern their ultimatum described. Chen nodded grimly. The aliens' methodical approach to conquest, their strict adherence to their own protocols, was about to become their greatest weakness. They're so certain of their technological superiority that they're not even varying their strategy. Patch me through to all channels. He took a deep breath as the communication system crackled to life. This is Admiral Chen to all New Eden defenders. The enemy believes they understand us. They think they know our capabilities, our limitations. They expect us to behave like every other species they've conquered, to break under their superior numbers and technology. Throughout the underground complex, humans paused in their frantic preparations to listen. Chen's voice carried to mining tunnels where excavation charges were being converted into anti-ship weapons, to research labs where scientists reworked terraforming equipment into defensive systems, to makeshift hangars where civilian pilots prepared to fly cargo ships on trajectories that no cargo ship was ever meant to attempt. But they don't understand what makes us human. They don't understand that we are our most dangerous when we're cornered. They don't understand that impossible odds just make us try harder. Chen's voice grew fiercer. They don't understand that we would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. The response came back as a chorus of determined voices, a symphony of human defiance echoing through the tunnels. Their first wave will enter optimal range in 5 minutes, Rivera reported. Atmospheric processors are charged to 300% capacity, way beyond safety limits. Chen turned to Dr. O'Malley. Will it work? The scientist's tired eyes showed a spark of fierce pride. The processors were designed to convert our atmosphere to breathable air. We've reversed the process. When we trigger them, they'll convert a cylinder of our atmosphere into superheated plasma. The Drachnid's flight pattern will take them right through it. And our people. The underground shelters should protect us from the worst of it. Should. Chen nodded and turned back to the viewport. Above them, the Drachnid ships descended in perfect formation, their golden hulls gleaming in New Eden's sunlight. They were beautiful in their way, he thought. Beautiful and arrogant. They offered us mercy, he said quietly. They offered to spare most of our people if we submitted to their rule. A generous offer, by their standards. His hand hovered over the activation control. But they made one critical mistake. The first wave of Drachnid ships reached the calculated point of no return. Chen's finger pressed down on the control. They threatened our children. The sky turned to fire. The atmospheric processors, massive structures designed to terraform hostile worlds into habitable ones, unleashed their power all at once. A column of air flash converted into plasma, creating a vertical river of energy that the descending Drachnid fleet flew straight into. Their advanced shields, calibrated to defend against conventional weapons, might as well have been tissue paper. "Second wave is breaking formation," Rivera called out, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "They're trying to scatter." "Deploy the mining drones," Chen ordered. "Execute Operation Hornet's Nest." Across the colony, hundreds of automated mining drones launched from their underground base. Reprogrammed in 3 sleepless days by a team of civilian programmers, they now swarmed toward the disorganized Drachnid ships. Each drone carried a fraction of the explosive power of a military weapon, but there were thousands of them. "This is just the beginning," Chen announced to his people as the first explosions began to light up the sky. "We've bloodied their nose. Now show them what happens when humans decide to fight back." The battle for New Eden was about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. When humans break, they don't shatter, they evolve. Fleet Commander Ixal of the Drachnid Imperium had never experienced fear until today. Standing on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dawn, he watched the tactical display with mounting horror as reports flooded in from across 3 sectors of space. The humans weren't just defending New Eden anymore. They were striking back. Another supply convoy lost in the Centauri drift, his second-in-command reported, mandibles clicking nervously. "They're using our own hyperspace lanes against us. Somehow they've learned to predict the emergence points." "Impossible," Ixal chittered. "Our hyperspace calculations are beyond their technological capability. The mathematics alone would." "They're not using mathematics," interrupted Dr. Klax, the fleet's chief scientist. The usually composed Drachnid scales had dulled with stress. "They're using their cargo pilot's intuition. Centuries of human merchants learning the feel of hyperspace travel. They're turning their experience into a weapon." The tactical display flickered again, showing another cluster of red warning indicators. Human ships were appearing where they shouldn't be able to, striking with devastating precision, then vanishing before the Drachnid fleet could respond. Their inferior technology shouldn't have allowed such mobility, such coordination. But the humans had stopped playing by the rules of conventional warfare. The mining colony on Proxima II reports they've lost contact with their orbital facilities, another officer announced. The humans, they're using their own civilian ships as weapons. Cargo vessels packed with mining explosives, piloted by volunteers. Ixal's inner membranes pulsed with disbelief. They're sacrificing their own people. "No, Commander," Dr. Klax corrected, his voice heavy. "These are volunteers. They're choosing to die to protect their worlds. Our psychological models never accounted for this level of self-sacrifice." In another sector, a Drachnid battle group discovered that the humans had converted an entire asteroid mining operation into a massive rail gun, using electromagnetic mining equipment to hurl chunks of refined metal at near-relativistic speeds. The precision of the attacks suggested they had help. Former Drachnid subjects who had switched sides after witnessing humanity's resistance. "Commander," his second called out, "we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, even our encrypted channels." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a human female in what appeared to be civilian clothing. Admiral Sarah Chen, daughter of the defender of New Eden. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with an intensity that made even the battle-hardened Drachnid commander flinch. "This message is for the leadership of the Drachnid Imperium," she began. "You thought you could break us at New Eden. Instead, you taught us something about ourselves. You showed us that our greatest strength isn't our weapons or our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to improvise, to overcome." The transmission showed scenes from across human space, civilian shipyards being converted to military use, mining colonies transforming into fortresses, merchant vessels becoming warships. an entire civilization retooling itself for war with frightening speed. Every attack you launch teaches us more about your technology. Every tactic you use shows us new ways to fight back. You thought our technological inferiority was a weakness, but it forced us to think differently, to find solutions you never imagined. The display split, showing multiple theaters of combat where human forces were using Drachnid tactics against them, but modified, improved, transformed into something new and unpredictable. You offered mercy in exchange for submission, Sarah continued. But humans don't submit. We don't break. When you push us, we push back harder. When you corner us, we rewrite the rules. When you threaten our children, we become something else entirely. Ixal watched as the tactical display showed more human ships emerging from hyperspace, crude vessels by Drachnid standards, but piloted with impossible skill and coordinated with devastating effectiveness. This is your final warning. Sarah's voice hardened. Withdraw from human space. Return to your territories. Leave us in peace, or we will show you exactly how creative humans can become when we're fighting for our survival. The transmission ended, leaving the Drachnid command center in silence. Ixal turned to Dr. Klax, seeking explanation, reassurance, anything. The humans have a concept, the scientist said quietly, called necessity is the mother of invention. We thought their technological limitations would make them easy to conquer. Instead, those limitations forced them to innovate in ways our advanced technology never required us to consider. A new alert sounded. Human ships had been detected approaching through normal space, their engines pushing far beyond their design specifications, their hulls barely holding together. By all logical analysis, they shouldn't even be functional, but they were coming anyway. And in that moment, Fleet Commander Ixal understood true fear, because he realized they weren't fighting a primitive species struggling to catch up to galactic standards. They were fighting something far more dangerous, a species that had learned to turn its very limitations into weapons. The Galactic Archives would later mark this period as the Great Awakening, the moment when humanity demonstrated why underestimating them was the gravest mistake any species could make. The Drachnid Imperium's campaign of conquest had inadvertently triggered a cascade of innovations that would reshape galactic warfare forever. In the Rigel sector, a joint fleet of Drachnid warships encountered what appeared to be a primitive human defense line. The Drachnid commanders, confident in their superior technology, pressed their attack, only to discover too late that the humans had developed a way to use their terraforming technology to create temporary wormholes. The massive Drachnid fleet found itself scattered across dozens of systems, their carefully coordinated attack transformed into chaos. They're not just adapting our technology, reported Special Observer Creed to the Drachnid High Command. They're reimagining it entirely. Their scientists have taken principles we've used for centuries and found applications we never considered. The evidence was undeniable. Human engineers had discovered that the quantum communications technology used by Drachnid ships created minute distortions in space-time, something the Drachnids had always considered an irrelevant side effect. But the humans had turned this phenomenon into a detection system, tracking Drachnid fleet movements with pinpoint accuracy. On the colony world of Horizon's Edge, a small human settlement transformed its atmospheric moisture collectors into a planetary defense system. When Drachnid ground forces attempted to land, they found themselves caught in artificially generated storms of unprecedented power. The humans had learned to weaponize their environment itself. Their innovation curve is exponential. Dr. Klax testified before the Drachnid War Council. Every defeat teaches them. Every setback spurs them to greater creativity. They're not just learning to fight us. They're evolving their entire approach to warfare. The turning point came at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The Drachnids deployed their most advanced fleet, confident that sheer technological superiority would prevail. They failed to realize that the humans had been studying their shield technology, learning its frequencies, its modulations, its weaknesses. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice crackled across all frequencies as the battle began. You relied on your technology to make you invincible. We learned to turn your own strengths against you. The human fleet launched what appeared to be a standard missile barrage. The Drachnid commanders almost laughed. Their shields could withstand far worse. But these weren't standard missiles. The humans had filled them with repurposed shield generators, calibrated to create destructive resonance patterns with Drachnid defensive systems. When they detonated, the resulting cascade of energy turned the Drachnid's greatest defense into their ultimate vulnerability. In the aftermath, as rescue ships picked up survivors from the shattered Drachnid fleet, a junior officer asked their commander a simple question. How? How did they defeat our best technology with their primitive weapons? The commander's response would be recorded in the Galactic archives. Because we gave them no choice. We thought we were forcing them to submit. Instead, we forced them to excel. The ripples spread across the galaxy. Other species watched in fascination and fear as humanity demonstrated again and again that technological advancement wasn't just about having the most sophisticated tools. It was about imagining new ways to use what you had. Young human officers, trained in both military academies and civilian engineering schools, began developing hybrid technologies that bridged the gap between human innovation and alien advancement. They didn't try to match Drachnid technology directly. They found ways to bypass it entirely. The Drachnid High Command received reports of human ships using modified mining lasers to disrupt their targeting systems, civilian communication arrays repurposed into electronic warfare platforms, and agricultural atmospheric processors converted into weapon systems that could alter the very composition of space around their ships. But perhaps most terrifying to the Drachnid leadership was the realization that humanity wasn't fighting alone anymore. Other species, impressed by human ingenuity and inspired by their resistance, began sharing technology and knowledge. The humans didn't simply copy these advanced systems, they reimagined them, combined them with their own innovations, and created something entirely new. We didn't just underestimate their military capability. Fleet Commander Ixel wrote in his final report before resigning his commission. We underestimated their fundamental nature. We thought their technological inferiority made them weak. Instead, it made them dangerous. Because humans don't accept limitations, they transform them into opportunities. As the conflict entered its final phase, the galaxy watched in awe as humanity demonstrated that true power didn't lie in having the most advanced technology. It lay in having the creativity and determination to use whatever tools you had in ways your opponent never imagined possible. Ambassador Zextal stood once again before the Galactic Council, but this time the chamber held a very different energy. The fear and chaos of her first warning had been replaced by something else, a profound sense of transformation. 6 months had passed since the Drachnid Imperium announced its unconditional withdrawal from human space. Esteemed members of the Council, she began, her scales shimmering with the deep blue of solemn truth, we gather today not to discuss a threat, but to acknowledge a lesson that has fundamentally changed our understanding of galactic civilization. The holographic displays activated, showing scenes not of destruction, but of creation. Human ships working alongside alien vessels, sharing knowledge and techniques. Former enemies becoming partners in technological advancement. The humans have surprised us once again, Zextal continued. Having achieved victory, they didn't seek revenge. Instead, they offered collaboration. Their universities have opened their doors to alien students. Their engineers are working with species across the galaxy, teaching their methods of adaptive innovation. The displays showed human instructors teaching their unique approach to problem-solving at the Galactic Academy. Their enthusiasm for finding unconventional solutions had proven infectious, sparking a renaissance in technological development across multiple species. What we witnessed wasn't just a military victory, she explained. It was the emergence of a new way of thinking. The humans showed us that true advancement doesn't come from having the most sophisticated technology. It comes from having the imagination to use what you have in ways nobody else has considered. In the months since the conflict, the impact of human innovation had spread far beyond military applications. Their approach to adapting and combining technologies had led to breakthroughs in medicine, environmental restoration, and space exploration. The very terraforming technologies they had weaponized were now being used to heal worlds damaged by centuries of industrial development. But perhaps their greatest contribution, Zextal continued, has been showing us what we had forgotten in our rush to achieve technological supremacy. They reminded us that the most powerful force in the universe isn't the most advanced weapon or the most sophisticated shield. It's the determination to overcome challenges through creativity and cooperation. The council chamber hummed with murmurs of agreement as the displays showed the latest collaborative projects. Human mining techniques combined with advanced alien energy systems had made possible the restoration of worlds once thought permanently damaged. Their cargo ship designs, refined through centuries of practical experience, were being integrated with alien technology to create vessels that were both robust and sophisticated. "The humans have a saying," Zextal said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Necessity is the mother of invention. We tested them, threatened them, pushed them to their breaking point. But instead of breaking, they evolved. And in doing so, they helped us evolve as well." A new image appeared. The recently established Galactic Innovation Center on Earth, where species from across the galaxy now gathered to share knowledge and explore new possibilities. The building's design itself was a symbol of this new era, combining architectural elements from a dozen different civilizations into something entirely new. "We once saw humans as primitive because their technology lagged behind ours," Zextal concluded. "Now we understand that true advancement isn't measured by the sophistication of your tools, but by your ability to imagine new possibilities. The humans didn't just survive our underestimation. They transformed it into an opportunity to show us a better way forward." As she finished speaking, the council chamber erupted in approval. The galaxy had changed. The species that they had once dismissed as technologically inferior had become teachers, showing them that the greatest technology was worthless without the creativity to use it well. In the years that followed, historians would mark this as the beginning of a new age in galactic civilization. An age where advancement was measured not by the power of your weapons or the sophistication of your shields, but by your ability to imagine new solutions to old problems. And at the heart of this transformation was the lesson humanity had taught them all. When faced with impossible odds, don't just survive, evolve. Don't just adapt, innovate. And never, ever assume that technological superiority alone determines the outcome of any conflict. For in the end, the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology at all. It was the indomitable spirit of those who refused to accept limitations, who found ways to turn their very weaknesses into strengths, and who proved that the greatest power lies not in the tools you possess, but in how you choose to use them.